please welcome our guest, Kobe Bryant.
Thank you.
Over the weekend, Arike Ogunbowale, when she hit the winning shot both in the final and the semifinal, yelled Mamba mentality. Was that easy for you to listen to?
Well, I mean, I love watching great players do phenomenal things, and it's always, it always makes me feel good that what I've done throughout my career has inspired the next generation, it was just thinking about how was I going to announce that I was going to walk away from the game, and for the most part, as athletes, we tend to think about that in terms of communicating that to the public or to fans. And but I realized I hadn't really had a chance to speak to the game itself, and so I decided that was going to be my focus. And once I had that focus, the words came pretty quickly. I actually wrote 2 drafts within about 30 minutes. And the first one was more confrontational in nature because it felt like the game was trying to tell me you need me, and you can't walk away from this. This is who you are. And so the first tone was more confrontational. It was like, no, I can walk away from you. I can do something without you, And then like in every argument, you kind of calm down and you start seeing all the beautiful things that you've learned from the game, which is the second draft that, you guys hear now. But I wanted to make sure it was visual. So it's easy to say, tell the game, I love you so much. But instead I wanted to paint a picture with that. So if a kid is rolling his dad's stinky tube socks up, chances are you love the game enough to do that, So it's trying to say things visually, and fortunate enough, Glenn Keane believed in the vision, and John Williams believed in the vision, and we turned it into an animated film. When people said, "Okay, what are you going to do when you retire?" and I said, "Well, I'm going to be a storyteller." Okay, that's cute. What is that? Well, I tell stories. Okay, all right, but so when you retire, you're gonna go through different stages. You're gonna be depressed the first week, the second week, and they would tell me this all the time. And so I felt like the nomination was validation that this thing is real. And I can do this. I do have talent other than dribbling and shooting the basketball. I can actually write. Yeah, and so I think that was the most important thing. I think I was born to play, man. I started playing at like 2 years old. And my father wasn't one of these fathers that was like, you're going to play basketball, or, he wasn't one of those guys. It was just I was just around the game a lot, and I gravitated to the ball, and I was completely geeking out about like the smell of the ball and like the way it sounds when it hits concrete versus how it hits a parquet floor, and like the sound of the nets and the different material of the nets. And there's certain basketball hoops, like in high school gyms and in college gyms, the rim sits slightly above the lower part of the backboard. And it was like, I was geeking out if I got into a gym which was like the NBA with the lower stanchion of the backboard and the hoop were completely parallel with each other. Like little shit like that would freak me out. So to answer your question, I was born to do this thing, man. And I did it nonstop all day long from the age of 2 to when I retired, man. I mean, it's that's the trick, isn't it? It's finding what you love to do. I mean, we talk about hard work all the time. It's like, man, if you got to get up every single morning and remind yourself how hard you need to work, you probably need to choose a different profession, because that shouldn't be there. I wake up in the morning excited to get to it. If I'm not training, I'm missing it. If I'm not watching a game of basketball, I miss it. There's no place I'd rather be. And if you have that feeling, then you're truly doing what God has put you on this earth to do.
Great advice.
Well, I mean, in business, it's a little different. I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. Right? But you always want to outwork your potential. As hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But, basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when my teammates would say, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice, and Nick Van Exel would come up and say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, motherfucker, what? Are you okay? What the hell's wrong with you? You know, so like I always had that extra chip on my shoulder. So like every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against. Because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me. Like I'm fine, you know? And so it's always that competitive nature, the work ethic, and curiosity. Because I asked a lot of questions. You know, playing with Bryant Scott, I asked him a lot of questions. Eddie Jones, who was great at chasing guards off the screens, and I didn't understand how to do that. I would sit with him before practice, after practice. Magic, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul, all the Laker greats. I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there? Why? You know, Bird tough to defend. Why? Because you look slow as shit to me. So like, I'm missing something. So like, tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean? And so I would always ask questions and try to learn as much as I could.
Abilities.
I just dream. I dream. I have dreams, and you know, dreams is they should be pure. And I think a lot of times, you know, when we're born into this world, we actually wind up going backwards. And it seems like the more we mature, the more responsible our dreams become, and the more governors we put on ourselves and our ability to dream and to reimagine. And it's always a fight for us parents and, you know, for you guys to make sure that your dreams always stay pure. And so it's not a matter of pushing beyond your limitations or expectations. It's really a matter of protecting your dreams, protecting your imagination. That's really the key. And when you do that, then the world just seems limitless. I always dreamed as a kid that, you know, it was possible to score 80 or 90 or 100. I always just like, you know, had a dream. You know, like sometimes you lay down in bed and you visualize things. And you just kind of, you know, just, you know, that's at least how I would go to sleep. I'd lay down, I'd imagine playing for the Lakers, and I would imagine what the uniforms look like. I'd imagine where we'd be playing, and, you know, the smell of the arena and all sorts of stuff. And I would see myself, you know, getting hot, you know, and, score 10 straight points. And then, but in a dream, like, why would you ever interrupt that? Like, you're not going to have a dream and be like, okay, and then he misses his next 6. Like, it's not going to happen. So you just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming. And before I go to sleep, I'm like at 120 points, you know? And so when you grow up, downloading that into your brain over and over and over, and then, you know, that summer, I made 1,000 shots a day. 1,000, right? That's on top of weight training and my conditioning. I made 1,000 shots, and they weren't just shots. It were shots that you saw in that game. There were specific shots. I mean, it was coming out of the corner, going to the pinch post, footwork in the post, coming off the screen. It was very specific. So when you download that into your system and you go out in the court and you're just executing things that you've done thousands of times before, and you have that dream, then that becomes possible.
Yeah, everything's been not choreographed, but it's been practiced so many times that it's second nature.
There's why reinvent it? Like, I don't understand that. You go out and play the game and you're just trying to create something new. No, this is what I do. This is what I do extremely well. You're gonna have to stop me from doing that. And if you do stop me from doing that, I have a counter to that. My philosophy was a very simple one. And this is where I think film plays a big part of my life. Rudy was one of my favorite films growing up, right? And if you guys haven't seen Rudy, I suggest you watch Rudy.
The reason why it's a tepid, it's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame, so we don't get
guys,
crazy about that.
You know, I think the USC football program has done okay over the years. So, you know, it's, but after watching that film, I come to understand if I could work that hard every day, with being blessed with the physical tools that I have, what would my career be? And I made a promise to myself from that day that I was going to work that hard every single day so that when I do retire, I have no regrets. And that was the most important thing for me, is to leave no stone unturned, get better every single day. And if I lived that way, then over time, you know, I'd have something that was beautiful. But that was my philosophy. It seems like a pretty simple one, but you know, if you live your life to just get better every single day, and do that for 20 years, I mean, what do you have? Phil introduced meditation to us when he came to our team in '99, 2000. And it was something that I instantly gravitated to because I could see the effects. Right? When I used to watch, studying the games, the Bulls teams, and watching their demeanor, watching their composure, playing in a tough place in like Utah doing the finals and being down 17, but everybody was like this. You couldn't tell if they were down 17 or up 20 or a tie game. It never changed. And I was wondering why the hell that is. And that's when I started doing more research. And when Phil came, I immediately gravitated to it and then found myself accepted the challenge of finding what that space is. And for the 81-point game, man, to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about the game. My knee was hurting so much. I didn't know then, but I had a flap of joint of cartilage stuck in my joint line. And so my mind was really trying to go to a place where I don't feel that pain. And the game started, and because of that, I was just in a different space. I wasn't worried about what was to come. I wasn't worried about what just happened. I was just here. And when you're just there in the moment, playing plays right in front of you, your focus is heightened because nothing else matters. And that's the space I've tried to get to. Well, I mean, here's why practice was important to me. Not from just the standpoint that I enjoyed playing. Like, I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed getting better. But as a leader of a team, it's also your responsibility to elevate the rest of the guys. And what people tend to get stuck on a lot is saying, okay, the way to make players better is to pass them the ball when they're open. That's a very trivial way to look at things. What you have to do is you have to get them emotionally to want to be better. You have to get them to an emotional space where they wake up every morning driven to be the best version of themselves, right? And how do you do that? And in practice, for me, it was a chance to drive them, to challenge them, right? And this is where you have to know your teammates, because if it's late, we just had a back-to-back and we had practice the next day, and you show up and guys don't feel like going through the motions, don't feel like practicing. It's important to know each and every one of them individually, personally, because then you know what nerve to touch. Some guys, it's like, okay, come on, we can do this. That'll get them going. Other guys, no. You got to figure out what button to push. Powell was always Spain. If I tell them how they lost in a gold medal to us and how they're going to lose again, how I'm going to beat your ass in practice just like I beat you in a gold medal game, he'd hate that. He'd hate that. But that's what practice was. You have to drive them. You absolutely have to. And if practice is more intense and harder than a Game 7 will be, then a Game 7 will be easy. But if it's not, then that's when teams start folding and capitulating. Tolerance for that and the kind of culture that the Laker organization stood for winning championships is not tolerated. You're going to show up to play, and you're going to lollygag through this scrimmage, through this drill. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to let you know I beat you. I'm going to want you to reconsider your professional life choice. And for the most part, people will say, okay, that doesn't make a great teammate. Well, I'm not here to be a great teammate. I'm here to help you win championships. So there's a difference. Fortunately for us and for me, we had an organization that, it was championships or nothing. And they were really good about identifying that and bringing players in here that had that competitive streak and, getting rid of the ones that did not. If I got to fight to get you in the gym, that's a problem. That's a problem. You want players that are gym rats, players that want to be in the gym, that want to work. And then from there, you build on top of that. But if you're lazy, man, I don't want to talk to you. I won't deal with you. You're going to make me feel dumber. You're going to lower my level. I don't think so. You can go over there. There's plenty of teams in here where you'll fit right in. She saw me work so hard for so many years. And the last few years, her and Rob, who was at the time my agent, called me and said, listen, we are so sorry for what happened to this team. We're sorry that we don't have, seriously, it's like we're sorry we don't have a team around you that can contend for a championship. I mean, so we can make a few calls and get you on a contending team, if that's something, because we just feel horrible about seeing you going out there and struggle. Remember this? And I sat there and I listened. I said, we've known each other for a very long time. Now I'm questioning myself because I'm wondering what about me makes you think I would jump ship? Because I've been a Laker fan since 5 years old, man. I know the Laker history all the way from Minneapolis all the way to where it is today. Right? So it's in my blood. And this family, her father, believing in me and standing by me and all sorts of stuff. Like I'm not gonna go anywhere. Like this is home to me. We work through this stuff together, and as a leader, you gotta be able to take the good with the bad, man. You can't just, because the ship's sinking, all of a sudden I'm gonna jump off and swim to another ship like that. You don't do that, right? If you can win championships in front of everybody, then you could miss the playoffs in front of everybody. You gotta be able to take both sides of it, because I love doing it. I mean, it's that simple. You have to sit and ask yourself what is truly gonna get you up in the morning, what's gonna keep you up at night, and when you find what that answer is, you stay true to that. I've built a brand for the last 20-some years, personal brand, which is great, but that is not where our focus is going to be for the next 50 years. Right? It's what we are doing now. Are we taking a big risk? Yeah, but I think that if we focus on one thing and do that one thing exceptionally well, we won't fail at that one thing. So sometimes you got to put the other stuff to bed and focus on what you believe is the core of the company. And that always starts from what you love to do the most.
What does the word Granity mean?
It means greater than infinity. And I just took those words and then made a new word. And the whole idea is that, when I started playing the game, everything was about trying to be the best. Win as many championships as you can, yada, 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 yada. You get older, you start to understand that really it's about the next generation, that these championships do come and go, right? And there'll be other people that win championships, but the most important thing you can do is to pay everything that you've learned forward to the next generation to come. And that's truly how you create something that lasts forever, right? And so the fundamental belief of the company is create forever. Now, how do you do that? And that's how you create something that's greater than infinity. Inspire one who inspires the next, who inspires the next, and on you go. And that's the foundation of it all. We'll launch that April 12th on ESPN+. And what I observed a lot of my career is how players study film. Because now it's become like you watch game film and you see what you do right, you see what you do wrong. Okay, let's do more of that, let's do less of that, right? But the way I grew up, from Tex Winter, Phil Jackson, the way film was broken down, it was broken down to the smallest detail. It was broken down to the right angle. It is broken down to foot placement, timing, looking at the posture of a teammate. What could he be thinking? What could he be feeling? Same thing with the opposition. You watch the feed, watch players go into the timeouts, who's talking to who's not talking. You start looking at every little thing. And so watching the game for me would take like 5 hours. And that attention to detail is what's missing. So I felt like if I can put that in a show and have the next generation, these 11-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids, start watching the game at that level, what are they going to be when they're 25? What level would they be at then? It's a passion of mine to get that thing going. Like I said, April 12th will be the first episode.
Friends.
Puny Pete is like, I decided to create like a sports version of the Peanut Gang, which is like the funniest thing. It's awesome. It's these little kids, this kid named Puny Pete, and God bless his heart. No matter how hard he tries, he can never seem to get shit right. But he tries and tries and tries and tries. And it's a podcast. And what I wanted to do with a podcast is, typically you hear a person talking and then the podcast almost becomes white noise because you kind of hear somebody talking and then you pay attention. But what I wanted to do is take it back to, where there was no TV and sports was telecast on the radio. And so we have these two characters, Clark and Kimberly Spice, and they're the announcers. So they're our vision into the world. And so they want to grow up to be the greatest announcers ever. Right? And so they're commentating on what it is that we see, and you have these kids that are out there playing all of these sports, baseball, football, basketball. And it's really about the relationship between them all and about the power of dreams and success and failures. And it's a series about their journey, but it's fun. And it's all sports and fantasy. So, having kids, if I try to tell my daughters you have to work hard and all sorts of stuff, like they just kind of look at me like, yeah, Dad, yeah, we get it. And they just kind of go in one ear, go out the other. So I've had to start trying to figure out how to seed that into stories, into content, the short stories, right? Stories I can read to them at bedtime. And then that's when the messages would sink in, because they'd pay attention to a character more so than they would pay attention to what the hell I'm saying, But I trick them because I wrote the story, ha ha ha. And so that's where this whole idea kind of started. And from there, I just started kind of outlining different characters and creating an entire world that's centered around sports and fantasy and magic. And the first novel series that we'll release is called Rollaby Wizenard. And it's a magical coach that comes in to teach these kids the magic that's within them and use fundamentals of the game and the emotion within each character and how they navigate those emotions to reach their full understanding, empathy, and compassion. Right? Because as a young kid, when I came in the league, it was like, I'm driving this way, and either you're going to be on the train or be on the track. Right? There was no such thing as understanding that people have lives outside of the game, which apparently I did not. But like if I understood that at an early age, and it helps me as a leader to communicate better. I came to understand that later, and getting to know people on a personal level. What are their fears? What are their insecurities? Right? What are their dreams and ambitions, desires, those sorts of things? When you come to understand that about a person, then you can help them reach the best version of themselves. So I wish I'd known that earlier. Don't, because it's a dying business. I hope there are no agents in here. It's probably, no, I'm kidding. I was very fortunate because Rob was the kind of agent that worked in collaboration with his players. Right? So my advice to you is find an agent that's going to collaborate with you, not point you here, point you there. Right, or work behind the scenes in the shadows without you knowing what the hell's going on, right? An agent that's going to have you be a part of the meetings, right? Have you in that room, discuss with you, not just pop a contract in front of you, but actually walk you through clause by clause what it is that you're signing or getting into, and get your feedback on it. If you can find an agent like that, man, you're doing well, man. I say basketball is different because it's such a direct competition. What we do now, there isn't. The competitiveness that I bring to work every day is really helping people, in a sense, be competitive with themselves, right? If you're animating something, or you're writing a screenplay, or you're composing a piece of music, is that the best you can do? Right? Don't ask me. Don't say, okay, do you approve? Don't ask me. I'm not the musician. I'm not the composer. You know. Right? So the competitiveness is more from an individual perspective. Is this the best you can do? And if the answer is yes, then off we go. I think it's important for athletes to own what it is that they're going through. It's awareness, right? I think a lot of times we try to tell children, tell young athletes in particular, that if you have those thoughts and those feelings, that's weakness, that's bad, you shouldn't be feeling that, which then causes them to, right, feel some type of way about themselves. Right? They carry that around with them for the rest of their lives. And I think the most important thing is for us to be aware of what's going on in here. Not that it's bad, good, or indifferent, but it's awareness. And once you're aware of it, then you can choose to walk hand in hand with it, or you can choose to fight it, but you're making that decision. If you just can constantly bury that in the distance, then it starts festering, and it comes up in different ways. It manifests itself in different ways. So I think it's unbelievable what DeMar and what Kevin are doing. Hope to see. There was a year I played Indiana Pacers in the finals. I rolled my ankle really bad. Jalen Rose stepped under me on purpose. He admits it now, finally. Rolled my ankle really, really bad. I came back, finished the series, but I couldn't touch a basketball till mid-September, which was driving me crazy because I couldn't train. But I looked at, this was like the 10th time I rolled my ankle in one season. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, I got to address that. And so being that I couldn't get on the basketball court, what I did was I took tap dancing lessons.
Okay.
No kidding. I took tap, and tap was like the best training for me in the world because it strengthened my feet, it changed my rhythm and my approach to the game. I was able to change speeds when I came back the following season. I think dancers put way more strain on their body than athletes do. And I think there's a lot that can be learned from that. My daughter took ballet for several years, and I would sit there in the class, right? And I didn't know what I was getting into because I don't know anything about ballet, right? But I'm sitting there in the class, and I'm watching her, and watching her get the first position, the second position, and I'm learning the structure and the rules that go along with that. And as athletes, there's a lot to be learned from that. Because if you simply go out there and perform and play, yeah, you'll be great every now and then. But if you play with structure, if you understand the rules that come along with that, the discipline that comes along with that, then you reach another level. But you guys have my respect. If other people don't see that, they're idiots. That's on them.
Thank you.
The discipline, the teamwork. I mean, I think teamwork's the most important thing. In a sense of, sports is a place where you can have so many different ethnicities, people from different religious beliefs, political beliefs, but you're all grounded with one focus of achieving one thing, right? So being able to put those things to the side to accomplish a goal. And that's one of the strongest lessons I think you should take from team sports. I try to get my kids to see the beauty in the process. So when they got old enough, I used to take them with me to workouts. And they used to be over there kicking a soccer ball around or whatever, but they would see. Right? It's not they're sitting there and watching them, but they would see. They know I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Right? They know I'm training again. And, this film, Dear Basketball, I mean, they were there with me as I was writing it and going through the animation process, going through step by step. And I think the important thing that we can do as parents is to lead by example, but also encourage our children to think incrementally. Not to say, okay, I want to be like, Gianna, for example, my daughter who plays basketball now. She said, Dad, can you teach me how to play basketball? I'm like, sure. She's like, okay, I want to be better than you. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's start with 15 minutes a day, right? And for 15 minutes a day, we just stood right in front of the hoop and just shot, right under the hoop. We didn't move around, we didn't do any dribbling, just 15 minutes a day, just shoot here, right? And you do that for a month and a half. And then next month, you step back. And the next month, you step back again. And then you start working on dribbling, right? And so I think through actionable things is how we teach our children, right? Because we can sit there and tell them, we're not, we're a kid, we didn't listen, right? But through sports, you can teach them how to think things incrementally because that's the way they behave. And if it becomes a part of their process in sports, it'll become a part of their process in life as well.
Toby, thank you so much. Thank you for what you've done for the city of Los Angeles, for what you have done for this Trojan family today. I'm going to tell you, the greatest gift you can give somebody is your time, and you gave your time today into your mindset. I've always thought that you were one of the most fierce competitors in the history of any game. Today, I now know that you are the fiercest competitor, and you taught these young people that to be great, you have to welcome competition. It's something that is innate in all the great people, and no matter what field you're in. And we'd like to thank you from our Trojan family to you, and we'd like to make you an honorary Trojan.
All right. All right. All right. Look at that, man. Sweet. How about that? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you being you, buddy.